Welcome to the 2020 Elementary Film Festival. I'm here with Ms. Shah.
Hi, Mr. Martini. We have some great categories this year for the elementary school section. We have horror, we have documentary, we have animation, and of course we have comedy.
I can't wait for a good laugh.
Me too. Let's start with an interview by one of our most prolific film students, Mason.
Yes, I heard that Mason has several entries this year.
Oh my gosh, he swept it with the entries. He has his own film company.
Wow, and he's only in elementary school?
Yeah, we're going to ask him how old he is.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe elementary school.
I know. Let's ask him right now. Mason, when did you start filmmaking and how old are you now?
I am 9 years old now, and I started making films when I was 7. My first film was The Alexa Family, which was a stop-motion animation.
Mason, as a young filmmaker yourself, what advice do you give to other young filmmakers?
I think that they should start with iMovie. It's very easy to use and learn. And right now, because we're all stuck at home, a good idea is to use pets and family members for your film.
Mason, what is the best thing that happened to you making these films?
Funny mistakes and learning how to use different types of software like Final Cut Pro, Character Animator, and green screen.
Mason, how long does it take you to make a film?
Well, it really depends on the length of the film, the topic, and just generally what's inside of the film. So, Never Too Small, it took about 2 or 3 months. It took 1 day to film the interview, but then I had to go to my school to do the gardening scene, and I did a little in the house with the trash can bat. But the editing was definitely most of that one. But in some of my shorter films, like the He's Awake, that was definitely more of the time was probably filming. It was about half and half, maybe. Because we did lots of takes, and we had to film him on the green screen, to put him on the ceiling and the walls, but the special effects, it was really just cutting out the bits at the end and doing that red, dark red effect and adding in those fake, screams at the end.
Mason, I really wanted to put an ad for Roommates when I saw your film, Roommates Wanted. Tell us about the making of that video.
So the filming for that took 1 day for me and my friends, but with the Bill and Penny, what is it? Is it Peggy? I don't know. Bill and Peggy? No, I think it's Penny. For the newscaster scene, that took 2 hours maybe, and we really just put a green screen behind here and had my mom and dad sit here. We wrote out a script which took 30 to 45 minutes to write that script, and then we took a lot of takes. There were a lot of bloopers. Lots of bloopers. But I think that one, it was still mostly editing. It was maybe 3/4 editing, 1/4 filming.
Mason, please tell us, what is your favorite part about making films?
I think the filming is fun with all the mistakes and getting upset and frustrated while you're making it. And the editing is fun, especially with the superhero roommates adding in the special effects. That was really fun.
Welcome to the Horror Jam. Our award-winning horror film this year is... He's awake!
The baby's awake!
All right, and we're back with our documentaries.
Yes, we are, and this is how we talk when we have documentaries to watch.
Because British people are smarter.
They are very smart, yes, smart, those British documentary filmmakers. And our next film in the award-winning category of documentary is Never
Too
Small.
small.
Very small. The smallest of all.
But you're never too small.
Oh, never! You're never too small!
You probably have heard about climate change, but might not know much about it. We kids should all look within ourselves for how we can do our part to help. I talked to the experts at the World Wildlife Fund in Washington, D.C. to learn more about climate change and how to help.
So climate change is the idea that it's sort of this all-encompassing term. It's all driven by an increase in emissions of greenhouse gases, and that is leading to more warming. And because the Earth is warming, we then have, so obviously you have an increase in temperatures, but then you also start to see things like changes in rainfall patterns, changes in the timing of seasons. So climate change is kind of the term that encompasses all of that. It's not just global warming.
Every day there are more and more headlines about climate change.
Flooding and forest fires are two of the biggest impacts we're seeing out there, and driven in large part, we think, by climate change. One of the big factors that leads to forest fires is drought. And so typically what we've seen in the Amazon for the last couple of decades is when you have a really long period of drought, in the following few months, you really have an increase in the frequency of forest fires.
Not only is climate change contributing to forest fires and flooding, but also to the warming of the Arctic.
You'll see each summer we see that the extent of sea ice is getting smaller and smaller.
The sea ice is retreating because the temperature is rising. The sea ice melts, revealing a darker ocean which keeps more heat in the atmosphere, increasing the temperature and melting more sea ice in a big feedback loop.
The suggestions are that by 2040, there might not be any sea ice in the Arctic in the summer.
Polar bears which live around the Arctic are especially impacted by climate change and need our help.
I'm seeing more and more kids and the younger generation stepping up and taking action and calling for some sort of accountability from my generation, from older generations. And so I think if we weren't in a situation where things were so bad, kids wouldn't be stepping up as much, and so that is a really hopeful thing to see.
Kids of all ages are joining annual climate marches around the world. So what are some other things that kids can do to help?
I think there's a lot. I have so much hope for kids your age. I think you have a lot of power in your voice. I think a lot of this generation has this ability to capture the attention of older generations in a way that maybe hasn't been seen in a really long time.
I think that your generation is really important. Even in your own daily life, you can make a lot of changes, right? Just simple things like switching off the lights when you walk out of a room, saving water, reducing your consumption of things like plastics. All of these are really important steps that you can take. If you're at home and you see that your parents aren't recycling, you should call them out and say that no, that should go in the recycling bin. Or that no, why are we leaving the lights on? We should turn the lights off. Small things like that.
There are a ton of little things you can do at your schools, within your communities, get involved with community gardens or recycling programs. There's a lot you can do. And I think it all stems from recognizing conservation and climate change affects multiple layers of your life. And so it's like, okay, what part of my life is climate change affecting, and what can I contribute to that? It doesn't matter how old you are, what you do, where you're from, you have a lot of power in using your voice to see the changes that you want to see.
And you've seen in this country that the youth really do have a voice. If they can actually do a big job in convincing their parents. Because if the parents, they might not listen to some stranger, hopefully they would at least listen to their children.
Welcome to the comedy section, Miss Shaw. I got hair in my mouth. What is our award-winning comedy film this year?
Well, I tell you what, they want some roommates. It's called Roommates Wanted, and it's funny.
Is it funny? Because roommates,
they're the worst. Are funny.
Did you hear that? Roommates are the worst.
Roommates are hilarious.
Hi, I'm Mason. Thank you for coming. My superpowers are that I can make cosmic booms and I can cut cheese with a knife. Hello, my name is Kenzo and my superpower is telekinesis. And my other power is that I can eat raw fish without getting relatively grossed out.
Hello, my name is Ryan. My superpowers are all teleportation and that I am my own Wi-Fi router.
Hi, my name is Milo, and my superpowers are I can use the Force and I can eat pizza.
Hi, my name is Michael and I have super strength. My other power, which might not be so useful in fighting bad guys, is that I am a human calculator.
Whoa, cool. Kenzo, stop playing with your food.
Funny story, Penny. This morning it was so cold my car wouldn't start.
Oh no, Bill. What happened?
Well, I don't know much about cars, but I scraped the ice off and still nothing.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, I actually had to have my car towed into the shop. And do you know what they said?
I bet it was bad.
They said it was out of gas.
Been there, Bill.
Quite the ordeal. Now on to our top story of the day. A local man calling himself Mr. Terror has been terrorizing one of the local elementary schools.
Oh, that's terrible. Those poor kids.
Well, it's a Saturday, Penny, so none of the kids were at school.
Lazy kids.
Mr. Terror started a fire in the gym, which has spread throughout the school. Even the library is burned.
What a shame. The real tragedy is that some of those books haven't even been colored in yet.
Police are on the scene and are advising everyone to stay away until they catch Mr. Terror.
Do the police ever catch bad guys like Mr. Terror?
I'm afraid it's going to take more than the police department to catch a villain like Mr. Terror.
Like the fire department?
Like superheroes.
In other news, a kitten got stuck on top of a roof last night and still hasn't come down.
I hate cats. I hope it stays up there.
Yikes.
Oh my god, there's something on the security camera! It's Mr. Terror, he's right outside.
Oh no, Mr. Terror has cloned himself. He looks so scary. Let's get him. Oh no, he's getting away. Look, I see him. Down below.
And now, following up on one of our top stories of the day, local man and supervillain Mr. Terror has been apprehended.
That's right, Bill. The superhero roommates use their powers, and they've defeated Mr. Terror.
That's more or less what I just said.
Except with more detail.
Was it though?
Yes. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
They're watching us. There's nothing else. No, yeah, you had something on your face there, Penny. The whole newscast. Oh, this just in. Mr. Terror's son, Baby Terror, is, well, terrorizing the greater metropolitan area. I don't know if there's anything that's gonna stop him. Oh, well, maybe that.
Okay, audience members, you are in for a real treat. This is our last and final category, animations. And we have some of the voiceover artists from our animations with us here to answer some questions. First, we would like to ask Lexi about her voiceover for Mr. Pickles and how she read that narration without laughing about Mr. Pickles farting. Lexi, can you please tell us about that?
The terrible crash of Mr. Pickles, I had to say a very humorous line about how he farts, and it was very difficult not to laugh, but I had to overcome the laughter and deliver my line.
And Vivian, how did you prepare for your voiceover?
I did some vocal warm-ups. It helps your mindset.
And Jacob, what does the fox say? How did you prepare for your role as the fox?
Well, it took a while. Yeah, I don't really know. It took a while to go, yeah.
To prepare.
Yeah.
Welcome, Raphael, third grader from Hoffman, Boston. What film did you work on? And what character did you create?
It was a film about the Loch Ness Monster. I came up with the character Nessie.
Oh, animator Raphael, did you like the process of animation?
Yes, I like the process.
of taking a picture and then moving the character.
As an animator,
what films
would you
like to see
or create
in the future?
Actually working on a film right now. It involves Lego. I don't have a name for it yet.
Okay, audience members, this is our last category of animations. We're just going to let it play. We're going to start with the best 80s band adaptation of Duran Duran's Hungry Like the Wolf with some wolf adaptations. What comes next, Mr. Martini? Sharkaroonie.
Bob the Snail. He's got some good stand-up comedy. Do you want a warm-up joke?
I do want a warm-up joke, Mr. Martini.
I've been practicing. Why do the French eat snails?
Because they're so delicious.
I mean, maybe. But the real answer is because they don't like fast food. Get it? Fast food. Snails are slow.
Yes, that's very slow. Snails are very slow. All right, excellent. And we will end the whole film festival with a series of films that are based on the true SOL facts of science.
Yes.
And finishing with, of course, the Loch Ness Monster.
The Loch Ness Monster, you say?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Let
okay.
the games begin.
The wolves live in the forest and sometimes it snows.
I have fur to keep warm.
The wolves live in the packs. We have a leader called Alpha. And the boss.
We hunt together in the pack.
We hunt prey like rabbit and deer.
My nose smells food from far away. The prey is this way. We have to call our friends.
Woo! Come hunt with us. When we find our prey, we sneak up and bite.
We use our sharp teeth to eat.
The ghost pup stays safe in the den.
We go outside the den to play and chase rabbits.
Run! We were going to grow up to hunt with the pack.
We love the wolves.
Hi, ladies and germs. Welcome to Bob the Snail's show. That didn't work. Thanks for coming. I've got a great show for you today. Well, I think it's great. Okay, let's get started. So, a guy is sitting at home when he hears a knock at the door. He opens the door and sees a snail on the porch. He picks up the snail and throws it as far as he can. A year later, there's another knock on the door. He opens it and sees the same snail. The snail says, "What was that all about?" Okay, fine. Maybe just one more joke. A snail goes to buy a car. The salesman is surprised when the snail picks out a fast, expensive sports car. He's even more surprised when the snail requires that a big red S be painted on both sides. "Why would you want such a thing?" asked the salesman. The snail replied, "I want people to say, 'Look at that S car go.'"
Okay, well, maybe those weren't the best jokes. But I'm a slow writer. In fact, I'm slow at everything. Good night!
Our story begins on a quiet day in the Washington, D.C. area. But it wouldn't stay quiet for long. Two news reporters, Alex and Nikki, wanted to do a story on some of the wetlands in our area. So they got a camera and went out to the Dyke Marsh, which is on the west bank of the Potomac River, just south of Alexandria. It is a large freshwater tidal wetland, and it's a marsh. So there are a lot of grasses and, of course, lots of water and soggy ground. The two reporters walked out into the wet, grassy land to get a cool camera shot, and while they were filming, a large, frightening, grassy marsh monster rose menacingly out of the water. The monster roared, and the two reporters were so scared they almost fainted and died. They tried to run away, but they were stuck in the muddy ground. The cameraman got an idea to turn the camera on the monster and shouted, "Tell the camera, marsh monster, why you're so angry." The monster was surprised.
"Well, since you asked, I am angry because it's my birthday and no one remembered. All my friends here in the swamp, the skink, the box turtle, the muskrat, and the red-winged blackbird are nowhere to be found, and I'm all alone on my birthday." Then the monster started to cry and cry. The news reporter said, "Don't be scared, Mr. Marsh Monster. If you will help us out of this mud, we will find out what happened to your friends and why they've been so rude. We're reporters. It's our job to get to the bottom of the things." The marsh monster helped the two out of the mud, and they told the marsh monster to stay put while they were searching for answers. It wasn't long before they found the red-winged blackbird hiding in some cattails. He said, "Psst! Over here! Were you just with the marsh monster? We've been trying to get a hold of him all day, but he isn't responding to our texts. We're trying to get him to meet us over on the boardwalk. It's his birthday, and we're throwing him a surprise party." The reporters told the blackbird that they would help, and they went back to the monster. "Well, Mr. Monster, I think we have some answers. You need to follow us." As they walked around to the boardwalk, the marsh animals yelled, "Surprise!" The marsh monster was so surprised and so happy, his friends had not forgotten him. They had cake and presents, and the news reporters filmed the whole party and had an incredible story for the evening news.
Once there was an astronaut named Mr. Pickles orbiting around the Earth in a spaceship. His spaceship began to malfunction and his ship crashed down to the Earth like a shooting star. He survived the crash, but his troubles were not over. He landed in an Arctic habitat. Thank goodness he had his spacesuit on, or he would have frozen to death. A polar bear came to investigate the crash and began chasing Mr. Pickles. The bear chased him until he fell into an ice cavern, and the bear did not want to follow. Water started coming into the cave, and Mr. Pickles was starting to drown, when suddenly a narwhal appeared and used his long tusk to spear the astronaut's spacesuit and carry him to safety. Once Mr. Pickles was on solid land, the narwhal called a friend with a loud whistle. An Arctic hare showed up and brought some apple juice that he found in a shipwreck to give the astronauts some nourishment. It kind of gave Mr. Pickles the farts, but at least it was some food. The hare said,
"Follow me, I can help you get some."
The two took off, but the astronaut had trouble keeping up because he could not see the white rabbit against the white snowy habitat. Then, out of nowhere, a white snowy owl swooped in and tried to snatch up the Arctic hare. The hare screamed and said,
"Hey, I know you're a bird of prey. Normally eat bunnies like me, but we need some help here."
He explained the situation, and the owl agreed to fly up high so he could see where they needed to go. After 16 hours, the three came upon an antenna tower where Mr. Pickles could get cell phone service. He called his wife to let her know he was okay and had her call the space agency to get him some help. Then Mr. Pickles thanked the owl and the hare, and they left to go to their homes in the frozen land. Mr. Pickles just hung out and waited. Soon another spaceship flew overhead, and Mr. Pickles knew he would be safe. He ran to the ship, and they headed to his home where it was much warmer. The end.
Once upon a time, there was a famous actor named Aldo making a movie in the Sahara Desert in Africa. He was starring with his trusty sidekick, a horse named Kurt Henry that he had since he was a little kid. One day, they went to the movie set, and the director made an important announcement. He said,
"We have just learned that there is an evil genie lurking in the area. He has an evil sidekick vulture who flies around and causes sandstorms. It is very important that everyone stays on set."
Unfortunately, a few days later, Aldo and Kurt Henry forgot the warning and strayed off the movie set. The evil genie saw the two and sent his vulture swooping in with a magical spear of energy that started a sandstorm. When it stopped blowing, Aldo and Kurt Henry had no idea where they were. They knew they would not survive long in the desert habitat without water and shelter. Just then, a camel and a desert fox came over a sand dune and said, "What are you doing here?" Aldo and Kurt Henry explained the situation to them and begged for help to get back to the movie set. "Sure," the fox said. "Follow us." The two led the actors back to the movie set and taught them about the dry and sandy climate of the Sahara Desert. When they got back to the set, the very angry genie was there throwing a major temper tantrum. Aldo said,
"Hey, why are you so angry?"
The genie answered,
"It is because you are invading my territory, and you didn't even ask me if I wanted to be in a movie."
The director said,
"Hey, is that a problem? Well, good sir, I can make you a star."
The director rewrote the movie to include the genie, and they named it Saladin, and it was a huge success. The genie moved to Hollywood with his vulture, and even though he had a reputation for being difficult to work with, he still became a huge star. The end.
Once upon a time, there was an alien flying over the Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia. He had come to the huge watery wetland for a specific mission. He wanted to find birds in the ecosystem that would teach him their songs. However, his spaceship suddenly started to zigzag and squiggle and crash into the swamp. Nearby, there was an artist named Lizzie painting pictures of the plants and animals of the habitat, and she saw the whole crash and ran to help. The alien was sitting on top of his ship, and it was slowly sinking into the dirty water.
"Help!"
he yelled. There was a wood duck in the water who rushed to help him. The artist had some rope with her, and she and the duck used it to get the alien to safety.
"Oh my goodness,"
said the artist.
"Who are you? Where did you come from?"
The alien answered,
"My name is Flocky, and I come from a planet, Neptune. I am a great singer on my planet, and I came to learn the bird songs of the swamp. But my spaceship has sunk, but I have an idea. Is there any way we can get lots of birds here?"
"Sure,"
said the wood duck, and he let out a loud All of a sudden, the great birds of the swamp gathered round to see what was up. The woodpecker came along with the barred owl, a blue jay, crow, and a bald eagle, and many other birds.
My planet is one that gets its energy from the songs of the universe. I want everyone to sing as loud as you can.
The birds all began to sing their songs, and even Lizzie joined in. Unexpectedly, the spaceship rose out of the water. Everyone was so happy. Then the alien was able to park it on dry ground. The birds taught the alien their songs, and Lizzie gave the alien a painting to take back with him. The alien returned to his planet and shared all of his new songs with his people. He even won a singing competition and became a big star. The end.
Once upon a time, there were two campers who were exploring the Louisiana swamp. They got filming equipment out so they could make a film about surviving in the swamp with all of its aquatic predators, like alligators and snapping turtles, and terrestrial predators, like black bears, wild pigs, and poisonous snakes, like the coral snake, the cottonmouth, and the rattlesnake. They also wanted to film another animal they heard were taking over the swamp, the nutria. Well, one day they saw a nutria, but it was no normal nutria. The campers were filming, and out of nowhere, a giant, ferocious, bright green monster nutria with giant orange teeth and red eyes that looked like fire rose out of the water. He jumped out and yelled, "Rabu!" The campers screamed in terror and nearly wet their pants. They ran as fast as they could until a majestic brown pelican stopped them. He said,
"Well, don't be afraid. I know all about the nutria's past. Maybe you can help us find a solution. The nutria were brought to Louisiana from South America almost 100 years ago by fur farmers and trappers. Well, they got loose from their pens or were released into the wild, and they've been taken over ever since. They're an invasive species. They don't even belong here. The nutria is so angry to go home to South America that he's become toxic and grown into a monster. He terrorizes everyone in the swamp."
The campers and the pelican brainstormed ideas on what to do about this nutria. They decided if he wanted to go home so bad, then that they should find a way to send him home. So they ordered a really giant suitcase off of Amazon and lured him into it with a s'more. When he stepped into it, they pressed on a remote control button and the suitcase snapped shut. With a lot of help, the campers got the suitcase on a plane and took it back to South America. They filmed everything along the way and made a documentary to raise awareness about invasive species and the damage that they can cause. The end. Once upon a time, there was an evil magician named Mr. Shazam who lived under the ocean and wanted to put ocean's animals in his act. So one night, he kidnapped a dolphin, a clownfish, and a seahorse and carried them back to his evil lab. The next day, a beautiful and kind mermaid named Seashell, Shelly for short, stopped by to see her friend the seahorse at his house, but he was not there. Next day, she went to the dolphin's house, and her friend the dolphin was not there. Finally, she went to the clownfish's house, and he was missing too. Just then, a diver swam up and asked,
"Oh my gosh, what's wrong? Where have all the animals gone?" Shelly said, "I think I know what's going on. Mr. Shazam used to be a good magician and a really sweet guy, but he's turned evil, and now he steals animals for his act. We have got to save the animals."
The two swam off to Mr. Shazam's lab and found him there with the ocean animals. Shelly said,
"What are you doing with my friends?"
Shazam responded,
"Well, I am planning for my act so you can leave. Chop, chop."
Shelly said,
"Come on, Mr. Shazam. Can you please free the animals? You don't have to do this.
There's something inside you hidden, like under a pillow, that knows this is wrong.
Mr. Shazam felt ashamed and said,
You're right. I'm so sorry.
Just then the dolphin spoke up and said,
all you have to do was ask us nicely to be in your act and pay us a fair wage and coral, and we would have gladly come to work with you.
The seahorse said,
yeah, yo, magic sounds like fun.
But the clownfish said,
guys, I'm sorry. I'm not cool with this. You just need to free us.
Mr. Shazam let all of the animals go, and the clownfish swam home. Shelly and the diver went home, but the seahorse, the dolphin, and Mr. Shazam decided to take their act on the water. They performed all over the ocean to sold-out crowds. They split all of their money and coral they made, and Mr. Shazam learned that you should ask and not just take. The end.
Once, many years ago, a man from Virginia named Cappy wanted to go to Scotland to visit the famous lake Loch Ness. So he hopped on a plane and off he went. When he got there, to his surprise, he found a baby Loch Ness monster. He snuck her onto the plane and brought her home. He had a pond on his property, so he put her in it. Nessie started eating everything in sight. The aquatic animals like the blue-spotted sunfish, and even some terrestrial animals like the eastern newts that lived near the pond. Nessie ate and got bigger and bigger. The animals living in and around the pond were getting angry and decided something had to be done. They went to the king of the pond, the great blue heron, and complained. The heron said,
we need to contact a zoologist.
Then he flew over to his old friend Bob, a retired zoologist who lived in a nearby log cabin. The great blue heron explained the problem, and Bob said,
I'll do my best to take care of this invasive species. Oh, what is that you called it? asked the heron. Bob answered. An invasive species, that is a species like a plant or an animal or even bacteria that is brought from one ecosystem to another where it does not belong. They do harm to the new ecosystem and must be dealt with before they spread and overwhelm the environment in which they do not belong, Aaron said back. Oh, well, this species is doing harm and she is annoying.
Bob had an idea. He and the heron went back to the pond, and the heron called out,
Nessie! Oh, Nessie!
Nessie swam over and said in her interesting Scottish accent,
What is it?
Bob said.
Yeah. Oh, hey, my name is Bob, and you shouldn't be here. It's not good for you at all. The space is too small for a Loch Ness monster, and you are messing up the ecosystem here.
Nessie answered.
I believe you, sir. This pond is a wee bit too small for me, and I've been unhappy here and have started stress eating.
Bob said,
Well, I have a plan.
He had to make a lot of arrangements, but he managed to get Nessie onto a boat that carried her back to Loch Ness. She was very joyful to be back in beautiful Scotland. She found her mom in the lake and gave her a big hug, and all was right with the world again. The end.
Oh, Miss Shaw, I am so sad.
I am too. This was such a fun festival.
And the films were so great. Can you believe that these kids are elementary students?
I cannot believe it. I can't wait to see them in middle school and high school and on forever.
This is the quality they're producing now. Can you imagine?
I can't even imagine. I'm so excited about the future of film. So
Me
thank
too.
you, viewers. Thank you for watching this portion. We still have the middle school and high school films to watch, so please stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in to our portion, elementary school films. Love you, audience. Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody at the Arlington Student Film Fest for all of the awards and for putting on this festival.
Okay, now we're going to do it with while recording.
What? We weren't recording? Daddy, I thought that was the recording.